Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on this episode, we are going to be talking about Netflix, the good, the bad, and the ugly with Netflix. I originally decided I wanted to do this because it did look like, and even though I didn't want either one of them to, this would have been the lesser of two evils. It did look like Netflix was going to be purchasing Warner Brothers, and that was part of the reason I wanted to originally do this episode. If you don't know, that fell through. Ted Sarandos still got I think it was an obscene amount of money anyway. But it looks like Paramount Plus might be acquiring it, which is a whole other thing that we will probably talk about at some point because that is absolutely terrifying because of who's running Paramount Plus and Paramount. And I'm sorry, it was Paramount Studios is what's getting it. Paramount Plus is the streaming service, but still, it's terrifying. So that was what inspired me. But I also think it's just a good topic because Netflix really helped shape the landscape that we are living in today, and including theatrical landscape. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. And joining me is Ishelle. So hello, Ishelle.
Hello, Erin and listeners.
Thank you so much for being here. And Erin A was supposed to join us because it was going to be a AAA episode. AAA? What the hell? What was the A in the Erin A?
Thinking about your car or something?
So Erin A was supposed to join us. It was going to be a triple E episode, and we were so excited for that. But sadly, Erin A can't be here. But I will be sharing 3 of her favorite Netflix series. So yeah, so at least we'll hear from her, but it'll be my voice. But it's not AI, I promise. No. But what I first want to do is I'm just going to give you a very, very brief history of Netflix. I do highly recommend watching the documentary Netflix versus the World. You can watch it on Pluto and stuff. And basically it talks mainly about the early history of Netflix. It does go a little bit into when they started doing streaming, but the vast majority of it is about how it started. It will make you kind of sad because it's almost like Netflix was this, it's like basically Netflix was David in the David versus Goliath, and they eventually became Goliath. And it's just interesting how that all happened. But Netflix was founded by Mark Randolph and Reed Hastings on August 29th, 1997 in Scotts Valley, California. Their very first office for a little bit was run out of a Best Western, which I just think is hilarious. They came up with the idea, and just so you know, also Reed Hastings was the angel investor, and so he invested, I think it was $2 million. And they came up with the idea for Netflix while carpooling between their homes in Santa Cruz and Pure Atria's headquarters in Sunnyvale. So they basically, they first started out as a DVD rental service. They were contemplating, doing VHS, but VHS would be too bulky, too expensive. They could fall apart. And then when DVDs came around, they're like, oh, that's simpler. And so they literally this is how they tested it. They bought a used CD, stuck it in the mail, mailed it to themselves, and they got it. And as they later said, we didn't realize that shipping mail to other states is a lot different than shipping it in the same area. And if they had shipped it to a different state, they might have given up because the CD probably would have been broken. When they launched on August 29th, 1997, they were very popular, but they didn't, right away, even though, it was popular for a small thing, but they had issues with their servers, crashing. They ran out of stuff. They're like, how do we say we're closed when we're an online store? So it was lots of little bumps, but they always were pretty successful. Even when they were losing money, they kept gaining people They introduced like a subscription concept in September of 1999. And then the per rental model was dropped by early 2000. So they basically were a, membership service, And if you didn't know, they also tried to sell the company to Blockbuster because of the dot-com bubble in September of 2000. And we'll talk a little bit about this because this is a huge famous story of how they went to Blockbuster. They wanted to sell to Blockbuster for $50 million. They were basically laughed out of the office. And then Blockbuster ended up starting a competitor site. And Blockbuster actually ended up becoming more successful for a while because Blockbuster also had the brick and mortar stores. So they were offering their customers the opportunity to return what they got in the mail to a physical store so that they could get a rental right away. That was something Netflix couldn't do. So they were losing people. But then Blockbuster, of course, got a new CEO. And the new CEO of Blockbuster did away with this service, which was so stupid, and bought like a bunch of Circuit City stores, all this stuff, which is what eventually led to the downfall of Blockbuster Video. Netflix transitioned to streaming in 2007 is when they started. Their first original series was House of Cards, which was the first one. They also, before that, had worked with like Stars, basically said, okay, we'll let you have our catalog because that was their big, hurdle to step over was that. They started expanding their original program, of course, doing Orange is the New Black. Of course, Stranger Things is probably what they are most known for. Stranger Things really helped cement the way shows are now. I mean, honestly, that's what really cemented it, where you have that bulk dropping of the whole season. People are binging shows and then they forget about the show until 3 years later when the next season comes around, which is such a frustrating thing. And it's a frustrating model, I think. But you can thank Netflix a lot for why we have that model. Netflix also started doing original films. They started having films being nominated for Academy Awards. AMC theaters, they have their Best Picture showcase where they show all the nominees for Best Picture. They weren't able to show them because Netflix wouldn't let them show them. Ted Sarandos has come out a lot against theatrical showings, or at least long theatrical showings. So that's where we are now with Netflix. Netflix is primarily they no longer have DVDs, of course. They sunsetted that, and they are primarily a streaming service. So I do want to start, though, with the beginnings of Netflix. So the early days. So did you join Netflix when it was just the DVD rental platform, or you'd get those little envelopes in the mail?
I did not. I was still in school. So I didn't have my own account, but I do remember the little envelope showing up at the house eventually. I don't think I remember how it all worked, but I do remember the envelope showing up at the house.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if Eshell was, because I'm like, Eshell would have been really young probably around that time when it first premiered and when it first started gaining traction, because I had it. I signed up in 2003, I believe was when I started my account. And it was the most amazing thing to me. I am a film geek, of course, and have been a film geek forever. And to be able to have like this platform where you could just not have to leave the house and you could just do it online. And you had like, your list of movies and the order you wanted to receive them. So how it would work, if people out there don't know, you would get, if you were doing the subscription model, say, I think I was on the 3 DVDs out at a time. And you could have them, of course. The big thing with Netflix was there was no late fees, which was how they undercut Blockbuster for a long time, because everybody hated that Blockbuster had late fees, but Blockbuster did away with their late fees to try and counteract the customer bleed they were getting because of that from Netflix. And so you would get the 3 DVDs and you'd have your list of what would come next. And you could rearrange your list. Like I did that sometimes. And then you'd send a DVD back once you watched it. And then like they would send you the next one right away. There was a time when Netflix wouldn't get new releases like right away. Like there would be a little bit of a wait period, but then that changed. And they had like lots of like titles that you might not be able to find at Blockbuster, honestly. Blockbuster has always had a lot of restrictions or had restrictions on like the content that they carry because Blockbuster was considered more family friendly. If listeners don't know out there, I worked at a Blockbuster right out of high school. One of my favorite jobs I've ever had, but I worked there and was an assistant manager eventually. And we would have like basically the R-rated versions of movies that were NC-17 or something. We could not have anything NC-17, all of that. So Blockbuster struggled with that with their online rental thing as they couldn't be like carrying some of the stuff that other companies might carry, that Netflix might carry or other services. But it was just a great thing. It was one of those things you looked forward to. You looked forward to seeing that red envelope in the mail. Sometimes you'd forget what you had in your queue and it would be a surprise. You discover great movies. That's how I discovered Donnie Darko, if you don't know out there, listeners, I've seen Donnie Darko more than any other movie in the world. And when I got that from Netflix, I kept the DVD and watched it like every day. And if I didn't watch the whole thing, I'd watch parts of it. I watched all of the commentary and I kept it until I received my actual DVD that I purchased. And then I sent it back and proceeded to watch that movie every day, at least part of it for a whole month. And then that's how obsessed I was with Donnie Darko. And then I've seen it like I don't even know how many times I've seen that movie. And so I loved that. It was such an exciting thing and it felt very non-corporate and it felt that's what's so sad to me about what it is now, but it felt very like anti-establishment in some weird way. It was like going against what the norm was, and especially without the late fees, and it felt almost like a community type thing. You could see how other people rated movies. It kind of reminds me of, I haven't tried it yet, but Letterboxd, if you don't know, they started their own video store where you can rent things there, kind of the same kind of way, except for I think you're just streaming them. But the way it's set up kind of reminds me of the early days of Netflix. But I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful. And then when they switched to streaming, I kind of, I kept using Netflix, but I miss those days of having the DVD there later. I mean, I will say when it first switched, it wasn't as sad, but because you could just stream stuff, but at the same time. So I know you weren't really like used to it, Ishel, because maybe your parents got it or something, but was there any did you think it was special at all or anything you can remember about that?
Yeah, I think that the ease of it was really fun. Like you said, that kind of surprise, like, oh, this one arrived today or whatever. We had a small movie store in my hometown, and I really loved going there to pick out movies. That will always be my preferred experience. But I guess, the ease of it was really fun. And then I guess if you have your own account, I mean, at this point, I guess it gives you access to more titles. If there were things that like your local place didn't carry or whatever, there was access to more titles. And maybe like the degree of privacy where you can just like online pick something and send it. Maybe that let people be a little bit more adventurous with their movie choices without, having to worry about judgment from the person working the counter. So, yeah, I could imagine that those things made it really fun and special.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree. I think, and it's funny because it feels like this next generation has a nostalgia for physical media, which makes me very happy. And I could see a world where we might see the return of like video stores, which would just be amazing. Because what made Netflix special was honestly the fact that it felt like you could get, I don't know, your hands on stuff sooner than you could maybe if you went to your local Blockbuster. You didn't have to deal with people. You didn't have to deal with lines. You didn't have to deal with all of that kind of stuff, or your local mom and pop's kind of store. And so it was special in that way. But then, you ended up having the red box, remember those and all of that kind of stuff. And so it kind of took that joy of like, my favorite thing when I worked at Blockbuster was having someone come up to me and want me to recommend a movie to them. And that was the biggest joy for me. We had our own little sections where employees recommend, and you could select a few movies and put them there. And that was always so much fun. It wasn't so much fun when, if you've seen Clerks, this really does happen, when customers would come up and say, so do you have that movie? I don't know the name of it, with that guy and that girl, and they're doing that stuff. And I'm like, you just described like 90% of the movies in the store. That wasn't as fun. And sometimes you'd get people angry because they'd have the late fees, which, on their account. Or, I had one time we were closed and someone came after closing and they knew they were going to get a late fee on, like, it was a gaming console, and they like threw it at the window because they were so pissed. That kind of stuff. People not rewinding really was annoying. We had a machine, you put it in there to rewind. But there still was something special about the community aspect of it, of, if you're a film geek, that communal, like, fandom almost experience of being able to share that joy and discovering new things and being able to share new things and all of that. So that's what I think ended up missing from it. But I think what was so special about it was it felt like an independent thing almost. It felt like it was kind of going against the norm. And then it kind of became the norm, and it became like the Goliath, which is when I think things kind of started going south. Before we even knew it, though, I want to say, I don't think when Netflix turned to streaming that everybody out there was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I really don't believe that, because I know I was happy with it. I think it happened more in the past, like 6 years, I want to say, is when it really started feeling more like that Goliath that is trying to take everybody else down. But we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about Netflix and streaming. So we'll be right back. I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, traditional, quote, big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping my money too. After years of overpaying for wireless, I finally got fed up with crazy high wireless bills, bogus fees, and those, quote, free perks that actually cost more in the long run, and switched to Mint Mobile. With premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month, you could be saving so much money. Since I switched, I'm saving over half of what I used to pay. With those other carriers, I was never sure if I was going to have that 5G coverage, because sometimes I'd be in the middle of watching something, I'd lose connection, I'd walk a block away, and all of a sudden, 5G network, poof, gone. But since switching to Mint Mobile, I no longer have to worry about that, because all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. So stop overpaying for wireless just because that's how it's always been. Mint exists purely to fix that. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Bring your own phone and number. You can activate with eSIM in minutes and start saving immediately. No long-term contracts, no hassle. So ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. I use this, and you should too. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/fandom. That's mintmobile.com/fandom. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Okay, so Netflix launched streaming actually in 2007. And it's funny because I didn't really get like the Netflix part of streaming. I didn't start that until like 2013, I want to say, is when I really started doing streaming and did away with cable. Netflix is the most subscribed video on demand streaming service with 325 million paid memberships in more than 190 countries as of this year. By 2022, Netflix original productions accounted for half of its library in the United States, and the namesake company has ventured into other categories such as video game publishing of mobile games through its flagship service. As of 2025, Netflix is the 18th most visited website in the world. And this is the streaming part of it that we're talking about here. So I want to first start out with something fun. So Netflix, of course, if you look up like its original programming, original shows, it's like over 200, including, animated shows and stuff. That's a lot of flippin' content. So, Ishelle, what are 3 of your favorite Netflix streaming series?
Okay, so I had to think really hard about this. And I was actually wrong about one. I was like, I'm not sure if this is Netflix or a Netflix original or not. So, again, I've not seen very many things that are Netflix originals. So you have to take all of this with a whole pound of salt. But I'm gonna go with BoJack Horseman, though I could not watch that again. It is very heavy emotionally. But I'm gonna go with BoJack Horseman, The Umbrella Academy, maybe. And maybe Sweet Magnolias, but I might swap one of those out for Sense8. No, I'll save Sense8 for something else. Okay, yes, I'm going to go with those 3. Yeah.
Because it's hard.
It is
really
hard.
because
Yeah.
they have so many shows and so many shows that you even forget about. Like when I was looking through the list, I was like, oh, I forgot about that show. Oh, I forgot about that one. Or they've had a lot of shows that are so good, but they cancel them. That's another issue with Netflix.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say Glow, but Netflix has a bad habit of not finishing what they start. And they will just like pull a show, even if it's performing well, or before they even give it a chance to perform well, they will pull a show. And so that makes me very upset with them at times. So I'm just picking those because they either had a somewhat satisfying end or they're kind of still going. But I don't even know that those are my favorites, but you said just 3 of your favorites. And so I'm going with those. Yeah.
Yeah. And Glow, which is on my long list, it really still pisses me off to this day because we were told we were getting a final season. That's what's so annoying about that one is we were told we'd get one more season of Glow, which if you don't know what Glow is, it's loosely based. And if you were a child in the 80s, you might have watched The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. And this is about that, loosely based on that. And it takes place in the 80s. And it's just such a fun show and such a good show to watch. And so many great people and characters and actors. And I loved that show. And I know Tiff and I are like 2 of the other people. Now, Ishelle, you can join us that are always, always bitter about the fact that they did this. Because the fact that they said they would renew it for one more season and then they just pulled that out pulled the rug out is just horrible because the actual final season ended on a huge cliffhanger. So it's just so annoying. And I still think the show is great and fabulous, but it's so, so annoying that we never got that final season and we never will. And it just makes me sad. So Netflix is known for doing that, though. That's the thing is they'll have like a show that people just rally behind and love. And then for whatever reason, they'll cancel it because it's not always about the numbers. And that's another thing that a lot of streaming services do is they don't release a lot of the data. So you don't always know for sure how well things are doing, but you'll see how many people are talking about it and they'll just pull the plug. Yeah, it's very aggravating. Before I share mine, I am going to read Erin A's. So she mentioned Diablero, which hopefully I am pronouncing that correct, which is Spanish, but it's available subtitled and dubbed. And Erin said it's a lot like Supernatural, but in Mexico City, and it's a demon hunter and his sister team up with a priest and a woman that is possessed by a demon. It only got 2 seasons. She said it's really, really good. Ragnarok, which is Norwegian and available and subtitled and dubbed. It's about a teenager in a small Norwegian town who finds out he's actually Thor. That's interesting. And various other Norse gods reincarnate into other kids and people in the town. And then Erin also said Sense8. So those were Erin A's. So thank you so much, Erin, and I wish you were here. So this was really, really hard because I have a list of like 6 right now that I'm just going to randomly pick from because I'm like, I don't know. And a couple of these that I have on there that I don't know if I'm going to say them are ones like I had Glow on there, so I'm not going to mention that. But I have another one on here that was also canceled too soon. But so maybe I won't mention that. So I'm going to say Midnight Mass, the Mike Flanagan one. There's also a couple of other Mike Flanagan shows on there as well that are great. But I think Midnight Mass is his masterpiece in television so far. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's such a great and wonderful different take on the vampires and vampire mythology. And it's a lot about religion and the harms of religion. And I just think it's a beautiful series. And I haven't watched it since, I haven't watched it again, but I think it's got some amazing monologues that made me cry. The performances are great, especially Hamish Linklater, who is just fantastic in it. Everybody is, but I don't know, he sticks out to me. And I just think it's a great, great, great show. It is a horror show, so there's lots of gore and stuff like that and scares. But I think what Mike Flanagan excels at is humanity and finding the humanity in people and in scary situations. And I think he does that really well. And also in grief. He talks a lot about grief. So I think it's a really, really good show. And this didn't start out as a Netflix show, so I may be cheating here a little bit, but the final seasons went over there, and that's the show called The Killing. This is really early on days of Netflix. And this first started out over on AMC and then, or A&E, can't remember which one it was now. And then they canceled it and Netflix kind of saved it, which is kind of a rarity for Netflix. And it's basically each season, it's the same detectives, but it's each season follows a different killing, basically, in a different murder mystery. And it's very, very depressing, very dark, very heavy, lots of stuff that might be triggering, lots of stuff about grief, lots of stuff about addiction, so it's not an easy watch at all, but the performances are so fantastic. This show was so underrated when it was on. So if you like your shows heavy, if you like your shows with a heaping side of a mountain of angst, this is the show for you. And then I'm going to mention lastly, and there's so many other ones, of course, and I know I'm going to be kicking myself for not naming certain ones, but I had to kind of stop right with my list because I was like, oh my gosh, this is too much. And it's this show called Maid, which is about a maid. And I don't know if you've seen that one.
You would think I've never turned a TV on. I have not seen anything.
Well, no, I mean, like I said, Netflix has over 200 shows.
Yeah.
When you look up Netflix originals, it is so long. It's not like this little tiny thing, But Maid is about a woman played by, of course, Margaret Qualley, who is Andie MacDowell's daughter, but also has been in so many things like The Substance and lots of other things. And she is fleeing an abusive relationship, so triggers for domestic violence. And she's a young single mother, and she finds a job cleaning houses. And it's about that. She has a strained relationship with her mother, who is played by Andie MacDowell. And I just think it's a really interesting look at kind of what we don't look at a lot, like people that are in that field of house cleaning. And, you see the houses that she's cleaning and all this other stuff. And I just think it's really well done. And it could be very triggering because of the domestic violence side of it. But I recommend it. Yeah, that's the one I'm going with. That's once again is Maid. And that was from 2021. But I had other alternates. I'll just say what my alternates were really quickly. It was Glow was on there, the comedy One Day at a Time, and the other one that got canceled, Santa Clarita Diet, which was a comedy. Did you see that one?
I did see a couple episodes of that one.
It's a comedy about people turning into zombies. With Drew Barrymore and Timothy Olyphant, who I just love Timothy Olyphant so much. And it's really funny. And it ended, spoilers, it ended with, and so if you don't want to hear it either, Ishel, I'll just quickly say, it ended with Timothy Olyphant's character becoming a zombie too, just like his wife. And that was the big cliffhanger. And then they canceled it because Netflix loves to do that. So it's another one that was gone way too soon. And it's just so annoying, Netflix, that you do this to us all the time. And yet you kept Stranger Things going way beyond sorry. That was a show that honestly, if we had done this episode a few years ago, would have been in my top 3 for sure, because I think the first season is one of the most perfect seasons of television ever. And I think, there's a lot to love in season 2. I still think Steve Harrington, his character evolution in that show is amazing. The scene when, spoilers for Stranger Things, but the scene when Robin comes out to Steve is one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen of someone coming out, and his reaction to it when you had this character that in season 1 seemed like such this asshole alpha male almost kind of character. And then he turned into my favorite character on the show. And that scene, even if you don't watch that show, I highly recommend that scene because his reaction is so beautiful to that, because he has feelings for her at this moment. And then she comes out to him and is very vulnerable. This is the first person she has ever told this to. And his reaction is so beautiful, and the way you would hope most people would react, and so loving. And they ended up being best friends for the rest of the show, pretty much. So it's a great scene. I don't know if you've ever seen that scene, Ishel, but it's so good. I'll have to send it to you because it's a really beautiful, beautiful scene, I think, and such a great way to handle that, especially with a show that's taking place in the 80s. So of course it's written with this lens, but still. So do you think, since it did, become just a streaming platform, they eventually did away with their rental service, which if you didn't know, I don't know if you knew this, Ishel, I'm assuming you, because by your reactions, I think you watched the documentary, right? Is that what I'm getting?
Which
Did
documentary?
You watch that Netflix
No,
versus
I
the
didn't.
world? Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
I'm just good at faking expressions.
Because in that documentary, and I forgot all about this or didn't remember this, but what they first were trying to do when Netflix was moving over to streaming is they were going to separate out the DVD thing, and they were calling it Quickster. And everybody hated it, because of the way it was spelled. It was spelled, like quick wasn't spelled the right way. And it was all like supposed to be separating it out, and it just bombed. So that didn't maintain. But of course, Netflix did away with all of the DVD, what they were originally founded on, which, all video stores pretty much are gone. So do you think, though, that Netflix would have been better if it had retained its rental platform?
Yes, I personally do. I am someone who is always rooting for physical media because they can take digital things from you whenever they want to. And I think was there an option to well, maybe we just ended up with some Netflix DVDs because we just forgot to return them. But was there an option to purchase them? But anyway, so yes, for that reason. But also, I think that having things on demand and ready access, with streaming and whatnot, I think it takes away from the movie watching experience and what a movie night used to be, at least when I was growing up. And I think if you grew up with something different, then it does feel like a loss to not have that rental option available anymore. If it's all you know, then that's what's normal to you. But yeah, I think it does feel like a loss. And there's just something about we are renting this physical media for tonight to have this be our priority for tonight. Yeah, so I think that it did kind of lose something there, but also I'm just kind of an old soul person. So maybe that's just me.
No, I think it did. And, they permanently ended the service on just a few years ago, September 29th, 2023. And they did allow users to keep whatever the last DVDs were for free. So whatever the last people that were, and I wasn't getting DVDs. I stopped getting DVDs in 2013, I want to say, maybe even before that. But they allowed people to keep those for free. So, with Blockbuster, when Blockbusters would go out of business, because I visited some that did that, you could purchase stuff for very cheap, so they weren't giving them away. But that's what Netflix did. When Netflix first started, they were allowing people to purchase DVDs and rent them. But it became so confusing because people would be wanting to rent something, but it was only available to buy, and vice versa. So they ended up doing away with that. But that's kind of what they originally started out doing. But I think it would be so nice to have kept that. And there's no going back. You'll never be able to go back to the way Netflix was ever, because they make too much money. And people still watch it. I still watch them all the time. So it's not like I'm like out here going, no Netflix. But I think it'd be cool if they still had it or if they brought it back as even a nostalgia thing, because I honestly think we're heading that way. I will say, even though I have issues with the last season of Stranger Things, really the last 2 seasons, they are releasing physical media of Stranger Things. They are releasing a physical media copy of that, which Netflix has been hesitant to do in the past because they don't want to do that. And so that's why I think it'd be great if they still had their DVD store or their anything like that, because then you get to have that physical component to it. And there is something about that that's special. There's something about, like having DVD commentaries. I'm a geek and I love watching the commentaries. Blooper reels, stuff you didn't see before, behind the scenes stuff. All of that stuff is also missing. Yeah, you might get specials like there was the Stranger Things special after the final season, but you don't always get that. And the thing also with physical media is physical media will be there, will always be there as long as, you don't destroy your copy or whatever, but it's physical and you can touch it. With just streaming, you can't do that. And when things get pulled and you don't have a physical copy, they might be gone forever and you will never see them again. It's like how Disney used to take their movies, their VHSs, and they'd go into the Disney vault and then they'd bring them out like 10 years later or something, that kind of thing. And that's kind of the way I viewed streaming. What streaming does is streaming kind of is following that Disney model. But the only thing is you don't have a chance to purchase that while it is out of the vault. And that's what's missing when you don't have that physical media part of it. I'm old school that way too, but it could be just because I'm such a film geek. I mean, I still have a bunch of DVDs.
Well, and also I don't want to lose the things that I love,
Yes,
like
that
I want
too,
to,
yeah.
I like having access to the things that I love. I mean, you can't see them all, but I'm surrounded by bookshelves in here and I've got tons of, these are stories that I love and I can always touch them and access them and read them again. And I want to be able to do that with the shows and the movies that I watch. And I don't want it to be dependent on what's making them money or what's taking up space on their streaming platform. Like, I want to know that I can access a thing. And so, yeah, for that reason, too, I miss it's not just the like, look at this DVD. I mean, I just ordered a DVD last week of a movie that I love. I want to know that I like to be able to hold and possess the art that I love. And I miss that by not being able to have physical media.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I just recently purchased the special steel book of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movie that came out last year, which I rave about because it's just so much fun. And plus, you get to watch someone slaughter, over 20 Nazis. So it's, you get to see Santa kill Nazis and we're all for that. So it's also, very cathartic. But I just bought that. I recently bought, they did this new version of this. There's this horror movie called May that came out in 2003. And I think it's a very underrated little indie horror movie. And so I just recently got a new version of that they released. So I still buy DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff because of that. I don't want to lose that. And they're special. There's something special about having them there and to be able to see them and to look at them. Recently Moth found and they brought it to me and purchased it for me to add to my Halloween collection, a VHS, like it's got the Blockbuster thing on it, copy of Halloween. It's like the VHS, like the actual, if I had a VCR, I could put it in there. And that copy, it says like Blockbuster presents Halloween. And that is so exciting to me to have that. I don't have a VCR, unfortunately, but it's so exciting. You do? See, I wish I had a VCR. I am so bummed because, I still kick myself to this day. I had boxes, Ishelle, of VHSs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I keep moving these. I don't have a VCR anymore. I'm just going to toss them. And I wish I'd never done that because it was like old shows recorded on there and all this stuff that I no longer have. And I don't know if someone ended up finding those and that would be like probably hidden treasures. There's like a TikTok account where he goes around and finds VHSs and buys them at like garage sales and thrift stores and stuff. And then he just randomly puts them in there to see what's on them. It's really cool to watch. But Yeah, you have one?
Yeah, well, I
Oh.
kept this combination TV that my dad had in his little man cave area, and so I just kept that always, and it has VHS and DVD, and so yeah, I still have that because some of my favorite movies I only have on VHS, and then we have like a lot of home movies, family movies from when we were kids and stuff like that, and so that's the way to. I know we can digitize that stuff now, but still, there's something about like taking the actual VHS that it was recorded on and plopping that in the TV.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm so sad that I did that, because there is something very nostalgic about that, and about that sound, and about even the frustration if the tape would get messed up and all of that.
And the tracking.
Yes, the tracking.
Yes.
When you would adjust the little, like the little dial on there, and you adjust
all the things. Yes.
Yeah, or like recording shows, or when you would do this thing where you would set one VCR and hook it up to another, and you'd record the movie. You'd put a little piece of tape.
Yep, knew all the little tricks. Yeah.
Yeah. I miss that. Just like I miss, to an extent, like CDs and tapes and records, which are thankfully making a huge comeback. Records are. And I miss that in a way. I miss, like, you can do mixes. I know you can. You can do playlists, but it's not the same as doing a mixtape. It's just not the same. It's not as personal. It doesn't take as much time, because those are so time consuming, or they were. And even a mixed DVD or CD is time consuming too.
Yeah, and just the art of curation, and like,
yes,
now sure you can throw together a playlist, but the curation doesn't have to be as intentional. But with the mixes, like, I got space for 13 songs on here. Like, what's gonna matter? Like, what's the mood for this CD? So yeah, I miss that too.
Yeah. And I used to do that too with VHS tapes when I would record movies that were playing on, like, say, HBO and stuff, when HBO was a little bit different. And I know they still play movies, whatever. And so I would record them off of there, and I would try to do like a theme, like have like certain genres together, or that kind of thing too. So it's the same thing. It's that curating your own experience and being able to keep that experience, where now you could lose that forever, especially with original movies that are part of a streaming platform, that are like, Netflix originals, Apple TV originals. You don't always know if you're going to get that hard copy of them, the physical copy. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Ted Sarandos, the CEO, and his thoughts on the theater model being outdated. And so we're going to talk about that, jackass. Sorry, I had to say it. Okay, and we're back. So I want to talk about Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos for a minute here, and especially his attack, in my opinion, on the theater model and the theatrical windows for movies. Just a couple of things that he has said and mentioned. He thinks it's an outdated model. He has stated that for the majority of people, the traditional long window theatrical experience is outdated. Particularly as many people do not live near a multiplex, which I understand a little bit of what he's saying there, but still. He argues that failing box office revenues indicate consumers prefer to watch movies at home. He thinks theatrical windows should be shortened, because theatrical windows used to be, it was like, you'd wait, like a movie would be out in the theaters for like 90 days, say, and then you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't be able to rent it for a few months after that sometimes. But now it's kind of been shortened to like, even like it'll be in the theater for like a month maybe, and then you'll be able to essentially rent it. You'll be able to stream it, and then it'll be on streaming like maybe a couple months later. And he thinks that should even be shorter, I believe, although he keeps pushing back against that, saying, no, I don't mean it should be totally really shortened. And that was why people were worried with them purchasing Warner Brothers, because they figured if he purchased Warner Brothers, that would mean that they wouldn't put any movies in the theaters, or maybe for just a couple of weeks, because they have had like selective theatrical strategy, which they've used for like high profile films for award eligibility. So like Roma, for instance, any other movie that you've seen that's a Netflix movie that has been nominated for Best Picture, it kind of there's like rules in place that in order to be nominated, you have to have had a little tiny bit in the theater. So they'll do that, but it will be like with select theaters. So it won't always be nationwide. Like I saw Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which was a Netflix movie. I saw that in the theater. That was my Halloween movie. And so it was great to see that on a big screen. I think that's a movie that actually is meant for the big screen. But a lot of people weren't able to see it because it's just select theaters that would get it. The industry, really, really disagrees with this, especially the theatrical, the theaters in general, because his stances have caused friction with theater owners who argue that exclusive windows are crucial for driving ticket sales, which they are, because if you just have to wait a week or two or a few weeks, a lot of people aren't going to go and see a movie in the theater. So what are your thoughts on what Ted Sarandos has said? Who, once again, Ted Sarandos is a billionaire. Okay. I want to put that out there because billionaires suck. They're ruining this country, and they have been for a long time. So how do you think this thinking will impact the future of movies, or can impact the future of movies?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some truth to it. I see less movies in theaters than I used to, and I make a decision when I rarely come across a preview. I make a decision right then if that's going to be a movie I see in theaters or if I wait till I see it at home. And so I know that there is some truth to that aspect of it, but just because there is a problem doesn't mean that I think that we should just allow it to be a problem. I think we find a way to address it and fix it. Like, I love the theater experience, and I love local theaters and even bigger ones. Like, I think that definitely has its place in society in how we consume media and how we consume art. Like, I think that there is a place for it, and I don't think you just let it die. Not to mention that there are jobs involved there too. That there are people who work at the concession stand and work at the ticket counter, and like, there are jobs that would be lost there as well. And I think people don't really care about that part or think about that part sometimes. But yeah, so I think if you just take his thinking and you go along with that, like, hey, this model's outdated, let's not invest in that model anymore, like nobody cares about that part anymore, then I don't know. I think several things that you start to see, we spoke about AI the last episode, and I think you start to see a bigger push for that from the money people, because they're like, if this isn't going to make me as much money at the box office, I don't want to spend as much money making it. And so I think big names start to matter less. I mean, if you can't get Meryl Streep to bring the girls to the theater anymore, well, why am I paying you all this money? Like, you don't have the same value anymore. And so I think if it starts to affect the budget, then less people are hired to be on set in various capacities, and those cuts can affect the quality and of the film. It can affect the safety of the people on set. I also think that we get more movies that are just for background noise. Like, if you start to make things specifically for people to enjoy in their homes, like, and I don't know, maybe I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I hear people talk about like, oh, this is a show for people who just scroll their phones all day. So they're not really engaging with what's on screen. They just want some background noise. I think you start to get more background noise type movies, which sucks for people who, like you said, are film geeks and movie buffs and who want something that makes them have to watch and see what's happening and follow along. And so I think when you just kind of roll over and accept like, this is a dying form, like, I think it starts to affect a lot of stuff. If a movie is not really an event or experience anymore, what role do movies play in our lives at that point? And I don't really know the answer to that question.
As someone who finds movie theaters to be like one of my safe spaces and comfort places, Alamo was a very special place until they've decided they're going to try and ruin it, with the mobile ordering thing they're doing. But putting that aside, like, the experience of going and seeing a movie with a crowd of people and getting that reaction. I've had so many fun experiences, like recently, like seeing Barbarian in a theater and the twists in that movie and the reaction from the audience. There's something very special about watching horror movies with a crowded theater when the theater's into it, because it makes it more special, and you can all get scared together. You can all laugh together. You can have those moments. There's this stupid Brad Pitt movie. Now I can't remember the name of it. And I should have looked that up, but I wasn't even thinking of bringing it up, where there's this scene in it This is from the 90s. And he ends up getting like spoilers for this movie that I can't remember because he comes back as like an angel in the same body or something. I don't remember. And he gets hit by a car. And it's actually a really, if you watch this scene, it came back on social media not too long ago where people were laughing at this scene because the way it looks. But I remember so vividly, still to this day, watching that movie in the theater, and that happened. And a woman in the theater literally screamed. And then everybody started laughing. And it's those kind of experiences that you're not going to get at home. Even if you're watching with people, you still aren't going to get that same communal experience. And while I understand why people avoid theaters, which is why I loved going to the Alamo until they went to mobile ordering, because, now at movie theaters, they're more expensive. Everything's very expensive. People are ruder. People do not know how to have theater etiquette. People are on their phones. People are talking. People are texting. So I get that. I understand. It just breaks my heart because there's something so special about watching a movie in a theater. And some movies are just meant to be seen on a big screen. They just are. There are some experiences that you won't view the same from home. And the other problem with the way a lot of movies are done now, and there's rumors going around that there are notes that people are being given where now you want to dumb down what you are writing and keep saying over and over again the plot points so that people watching, because people are going to be distracted on their phone, will know what goes on. There was one of the funniest bits from the Oscars this year was when Conan O'Brien and Sterling K. Brown replicated the scene from Casablanca and did it as if it was made today. And it is hilarious because they keep saying, yes, this is taking place during World War II. And they keep mentioning it over and over again. Sterling K. Brown is so funny in that. He needs to do some more comedies. Have you seen that? It is.
I have
so
not
funny.
seen it, but I do know that his show is one that they say is not written for people who are like on their phones all the time. Like that Paradise, is that what it's called?
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet either, but I know a lot of people that love it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's what I've heard about that show too, is that it's one that you have to actually pay attention to. And I think there are shows that are like that. I think there's pushback on what's going on. And there's pushback from a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time. But at the same time, I sadly think because movie theaters are losing so much money and they're not doing anything to counteract that. Like they're doing things to do the opposite. Like the fact that Alamo is now moving to mobile ordering, when what made Alamo so special is the fact that they were so anti-phone, anti-distraction. They were like a place that you could go and feel like you have a 99.999% chance that you are not going to have any interruptions. I have never, knock on wood, had to deal with that in the past with Alamo, where I felt like, I was going to worry about someone talking through the whole movie. And so I understand because it's so hard to find that now, and it's so hard to find that special experience. And when you only have to wait a few weeks, why go and waste your money and time sitting in a movie theater? But I would argue for people like me, it's just, there's something so special and communal about the movie going experience. And I hate watching people that have made so much money off of people's love for entertainment basically spitting on that. And that to me is a lot of what it is. And he tries to paint it in this picture of that he cares about the consumer and what the consumer wants. But it's really because he is worried if people go to the movie theaters, he's going to lose a little bit of money. And he's not going to lose money. I mean, I don't think so. Why don't you, the way you could do it is you could open up your own Netflix theater.
Yeah. You could, and he's not going to lose money. People are still going to watch it. I rewatch movies, and sometimes I saw it with this group of friends, but now I want to watch it with this group of friends or whatever, Yeah. It's always about the money for people who don't need more money.
Exactly. We need to get that printed out and put on T-shirts and bumper stickers and everything because it's true. It's so true. Conan O'Brien got in quite a few because Ted Sarandos was there at the Oscars, and he did get in a few jabs at his expense, which was nice to see. But we need more of those because we worship these people way too much. And we are the majority. They aren't the majority. We are actually the majority. And we just don't realize that, or I don't think it's necessarily that we don't realize it, but we don't think we have the power when we do have the power. And so when you have these billionaires that they're about the money and they're about the tech and they're not about the art, that's when art starts to slip and fall and fail. And that's what's happening right now. And it's just really sad to me. And I still watch Netflix. Like I said, I still think they have some great content. I still love a lot of the things they have on there. I love it when they get movies that I didn't get a chance to see or I missed in the theater or I love and I want to watch again or old favorites come back. I love that, but I think you can combine that with the theatrical experience. You don't have to get rid of one to have the other, in my opinion. But on the positive side of it, I guess, do you have like one of your favorite like Netflix original movies?
I could not think of what was Netflix original movie. So this is where I cheated. And I'm going to go with Sense8 did a movie to like wrap up because they ended up canceling the show. And so they did a movie to wrap up. So I'm going to go with the Sense8 movie.
That works because, hey.
It's a movie, I think. Yeah. It might be a long TV episode, but I think they call it a movie technically.
It works. I'll give it to you. This isn't necessarily my favorite Netflix movie, but I just want to shout it out because I think it's an underrated Netflix movie. And that's the movie The Half of It, which I don't know if you've seen this movie, Ishel. It is a take on the Cyrano de Bergerac tale, but it's a little bit different. And it is about this smart but cash-strapped, is how they describe her in IMDb, teen Ellie Chu, who agrees to write a love letter for a jock she doesn't expect to become his friend or to fall for his crush. So she's also coming to terms with her sexuality, and she likes the girl that he has a crush on. But it's mainly about this friendship between the two of them. That's the main story here. And I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful romance in a way, even though it's not a romance that you're expecting. And I mean that like also friendship. I don't mean like a love, kissy, kissy.
I think I have seen this actually.
You have?
Yeah. I just can't remember the name of it.
Movie.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like a little platonic queer platonic relationship between them, or just maybe platonic, yeah.
Yeah. And with Paul and her become like, Paul and Ellie become friends and he's the jock. And there's the way it ends is so beautiful. And it just really is a story that you don't see a lot of just revolving around friendship. And also her dealing with her sexuality, but also just dealing with her relationship with her dad and everything. And I highly recommend it. And I wish it had gotten more love. I think it kind of flew under the radar because there were a lot of movies coming out around that time on Netflix. You know, like, of course, you had like a little bit after that, but you had like To All the Boys I've Loved Before and all of those movies, which I love those movies. But I think it was kind of like those ones. And there were a few others kind of made this one fly under the radar. And this one was a little bit quieter, but I recommend it. So that's why I wanted to mention it. It's not necessarily my favorite, but it deserves more love. Okay, well, lastly, what I want to talk about is I do want to talk about the Blockbuster thing because it is an incredible story to me. And it's incredible that a company like Blockbuster that really became the Goliath in the world of video stores for so long ended up probably making the worst decision they ever made financially, was to turn down Netflix. Or maybe you don't think it's a bad decision. I don't know. So back in 2000, Netflix offered to sell to Blockbuster for $50 million, but the CEO, John and Tokyo, laughed them out of the room, like literally laughed out of the room. Do you think if this had happened, do you think the streaming and entertainment landscape would look different?
I do, but I'm not sure how because it doesn't seem like the Blockbuster folks were very smart. So I don't know if we'd be better or worse off at this point. But yeah, it would definitely be different because, you said, John, maybe if it was Jan would have made a better choice. But you can read into what I'm inferring there. But John did not make a good choice here. But yeah, so it definitely would have been different, but I don't know if it'd been better or worse.
Yeah, it's hard to say because, it didn't happen, of course. And so it's hard to say. It would definitely be different. I mean, who knows, we probably wouldn't have gotten the shows we got, or maybe they would have been somewhere else. We probably wouldn't have gotten the movies, gotten the actors that, came out of Netflix in a way. But it's such a funny story to me. And also the story of how Blockbuster almost defeated Netflix in the end with their same model. But then when John was actually ousted, and he actually really wanted to keep their model that they were doing. So he saw eventually why they should do it. And if they had kept that, I honestly think more than just them turning this down, if they had kept that model and kept doing it, I wonder if Netflix would have failed, would have ended up being like a cautionary tale, or a cautionary tale of a company that got too big for itself or got too ego driven because of the way they kept raising their prices for a little bit there, and then they would lower them. And because Blockbuster really, really, really put a huge dent in them when they went to that rental service, which kind of surprised me because I remember when that happened and I really didn't really use it that much. I used it a little bit, I signed up for the free thing or something, and I kind of thought it wasn't doing well, but I do remember it was called the not all in, but it was their special thing where you could also rent 2 movies from the stores as well. And I remember that because I remember going to the video store and doing that. But so it just kind of feels like Blockbuster, even though when they first started, they kind of went, okay, so you have these mom and pop stores, but some of the mom and pop stores would also be have a Playboy section, right near where the family section was. So their idea was to kind of corner the family movie watching experience. And so they were smart for a while, but then I think they didn't believe in the future of what was going to happen, I think was the problem. And if they had believed in the future of what was going to happen, I think they'd still be around today. Because even though Blockbuster was this huge company, was like a Goliath, was a Ted Sarandos in a lot of respects, it was the company you want to root against kind of thing. There's so much nostalgia for it now because of the experience of the video store. So I think if it had happened judging by how they handled things, we probably wouldn't have either. They'd probably be both relics. And then maybe Netflix would swoop in and come back. Be a comeback story.
I'd still be down at the little mom and pop place renting my VHS tapes.
Yeah. Yeah, those were the nice ones. There was one like that in Boulder, Colorado, where it was a two stories, and they had anything you could imagine. And I remember when I worked at Blockbuster, because I worked at a Blockbuster in Boulder, and we would always send customers over there because they'd come up and they go, so do you have this? And we'd no, Blockbuster won't carry that. I would highly recommend you go here instead of here. Because we're corporate. They're not corporate. They're independent. So you should go over there. Or do you remember when you would walk into 7-Eleven or other gas stations and they'd have their little video rental section? Oh man, I miss those days. There's a store here in a mall here, and I saw it just when I went in there for something else, and they have so many DVDs for sale. And it was incredible walking in there. It felt like going into a time machine and being oh my gosh, I remember being able to go into video stores and buying DVDs in there and all that kind of stuff. And I miss it. So that's kind of what the takeaway for me from doing this episode is how much I miss physical media. I really miss physical media. And we should keep supporting physical media. So buy physical media. Demand physical media, demand stuff that doesn't require them to repeat the plot to you 20 times. We don't need that.
Hoy, I am really worried about society. Oy, yeah.
Me too. Every day.
Yeah. And for many reasons, I am very worried about the state of humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very scary. It's a very scary world. So it is time to play 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock. So how did you connect Finn, or did you play?
Okay, I did. But at the time, I thought Peaky Blinders was a Netflix original. It is not. So, but it's too late. I had already picked Peaky Blinders and Cillian Murphy. So that's what we're doing. Okay? Just let me have
it's
it.
Fine.
Yeah, let me have
it's
it.
It's fine.
And but I love Cillian Murphy. And this is a one that you will appreciate. So I did Peaky Blinders, which is on Netflix, with Cillian Murphy, who was in Intermission with Colin Farrell. And then he was in Winter's Tale, apparently, that I've not seen, with Finn Wittrock, who I still don't know who that is. But that is a thing that happened.
I love how you still don't know who he is.
I don't want to. I feel like it's my lore at this point to not really know who that person is. And I feel like I'd be disappointing you if I did go find out who he is.
Disappointing me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just kind of cheating here, but I will do a connection. But so Finn Wittrock was in a Netflix movie last year called Don't Move, where he plays a serial killer. It's an okay movie. We love you, Finn, but I want you to get some better projects. But I could also use Hamish Linklater, who was in Midnight Mass, who has been in several things with Finn. He did the movie Downtown Owl with him, which we did a review of. Half of us liked it, half of us didn't like it. And it was with some of my Finn crew. So it was me, Jen, Erin A, and Moth. And 2 of us liked it, 2 of us didn't. You can try and guess who it was, or you can go and watch that segment it was during our marathon streaming event a couple of years ago. So yeah, there you go. Well, thank you so much, Ishelle, for joining me for this episode and talking about Netflix with me. I really enjoyed it. So we're going to go ahead and close out. And Ishelle can tell everybody about Queers and Quills and what that is and next year's event.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Queers and Quills is a queer romance book convention that will happen in Portland, Oregon in June of 2027. Tickets will go on sale a little later this year. And it is a little moment in the year to celebrate queer joy, queer romance, queer expression as it appears in writing, specifically in the capital G romance genre. Capital R romance genre. And yeah, it's a great time to get together with fellow readers, to meet some authors, to hear some pretty great panels. We do some fun social activity event things. Yeah, so that's what the convention is all about. We use money from that to support some local and national queer organizations. So always trying to make sure that we're doing some good as we're having fun. So yeah, that is what it's about. You can check out our website, queersandquills.com. And we're also on the social media things at Queers and Quills.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll put a link in the show notes. Everybody, please go and check it out. And I tell you every time that I'm just so happy for you. And I think it's so amazing. And Fergie the dog, well, Fergie likes all the horror stuff on Netflix. So her favorite from the ones I chose would have been Midnight Mass because, she loves to watch horror movies. And that's a true thing. She also loves Abbott Elementary and true crime. And you can follow her on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, links to our social media, including our Discord server, head on over to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And while you're there, consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. For as little as $3 a month, you get ad-free content. You get episodes a day early. You get bonus episodes. Occasionally, you can win prizes. Like for our upcoming May 16th marathon streaming event, which that's 12 hours of streaming on our YouTube channel from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we also give away prizes to some of our Patreon subscribers, so you can win stuff donated. You can win stuff from our Redbubble store, so it's a ton of fun. So click the link in the show notes or head on over to the Support Us tab on our website, which once again is it'safandomthingpod.com. And next week, it's the first time they have ever been on the show, but I have a very special episode coming to you. And I have with me the hosts of Mind the Tags podcast, which is a podcast that talks about fanfic. And they're going to be on to talk about, well, a lot of male fanfic, a lot of slash fanfic. So that's the topic we are going to be talking about. So the hosts, Emily and V, will be joining me next week. So I'm excited to have them on. I'm always excited to have new people on the podcast. So if you are a podcast host, or if you are a creator and you potentially want to be on the show or you want to be interviewed, you could also reach out to us via our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. You can click the contact us button there, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, stop Asian hate, and free Palestine.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.